Communicating with people is such big. If you don't communicate with each other, even if you live next to each other for the rest of your life, you don't know each other. You don't get anything because of it, but rather it harms you. If you live without knowing or communicating with the person you need to know and communicate with, you will not receive the blessings that God will give you and will lead a life of unconditional loss. Some people know Him, communicate with Him, and live a good life, escaping the hellish pain of poverty. A person knew, communicated, and lived with someone, and one day, because of that, he solved the problem of his own death. The person he communicated with grew up and became a doctor and took care of himself. But when he was terminally ill, the person he knew hurriedly operated on and saved his life. A person communicated with, talked to, and lived with someone, but the person he knew was the one who was looking for him to kill him. Therefore, he got out beforehand. A person tried not to get along with the person in front of him, because the person was a bit violent. He tried to cut off contact with the person after a few years, but one day when he drowned in the water, that person rescued him and saved him. Living with people is such big. The more you know, the more frustrating it is if you don't communicate with each other. If you don't communicate with each other, misunderstandings will arise, inner illnesses will arise, and each other's thoughts will differ. When we communicate, we become one mind. Communicating and living is mutually beneficial. If you live in communication because you live as one, you will have tremendous strength, wisdom, and methods. When politics, religion, science, and all disciplines communicate together, everything becomes easy. If you communicate with each other, it becomes a double-stranded cord and problems are easily resolved. If the two communicate, it is a double-stranded cord. If the three communicate, it is a three-stranded cord. When the two communicate, it becomes the power of the double-stranded cord. When the three communicate, it becomes the power of the three-stranded cord. If we all communicate, we will display tremendous power. If we live and communicate with each other, we will have each other's virtues. If we communicate with each other and live as a whole, we can exert tremendous power and deal with incidents as soon as they occur. Since we do not communicate, even if an incident occurs, it cannot be dealt with, and we only dispute each other. If we communicate with each other, anything is handled and resolved right away. We do not communicate because we have different ideologies and thoughts. And we do not communicate because we misunderstand and do not understand each other properly. Jesus is the head of the Spirit. He is united with His flesh, communicates with Him, and guides people. If you focus on yourself just because something else doesn't match your personality, thoughts, and methods, you won't communicate with Jesus. When the relationship of communication with each other is cut off, each other is dead. To communicate is to live. If you can't communicate with each other, the relationship is dead. If the power line breaks, the electricity is dead. So you will live in the dark. It's like that in life, and it's like that with Jesus. If communication with the leader in the church is cut off, it is dead. Front and back, up and down, and left and right must communicate. Become one with the Trinity, Jesus, and the missionary of the age, and communicate with one another.